Thank you. Okay, so we'll start again. Good afternoon, everyone. It's my honour to welcome you all here today to the celebration of the life of my dear sister, Audrey Scott. Those of us here are in a privileged position to be able to attend in person. But due to the current restrictions, many extended family and friends are watching this remotely. A very special welcome to you all. I'm very happy you could join us. Most of you will be aware that Audrey was a very talented musician and composer. The wonderful music you will hear here today was composed by Audrey and her great musical friend, Stephen Gormley. Stephen joins her vocally on some of the songs. And as a sign of the great respect Audrey had for his musical talent, we are including one of his compositions. We're going to commence today with one of Audrey's compositions. In fact, it's one of her songs that she released, and it's called Missing. Audrey dedicated this song to the strength of our mother following the death of our dad 4 years ago. And now we'll play Missing. And it's missing. This is nothing here. Okay. We'll only be a sec. She's having a laugh.
She is. Oh, he's done it again.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so now we have Missing by Audrey Scott.
Kissed her forehead oh so slowly and held his tears inside with all his might. Loneliness is part of life, pervades the senses day and night, as to search deep in herself to tell her she's okay. She looks again, she's on her own, feeling lost and so alone without him beside her, filling up her life. Memories come tumbling to her, catch her breath and wash all over. She smiles, but tears come to her eyes. Loneliness is part of life, pervades the senses day and night, has to search deep in herself to tell her she's okay. Loneliness is part of life, pervades the senses day and night, has to search deep in herself to tell her she's okay.
Now, Lloyd would like to share with you some of the wonderful memories he had of the fantastic life he had with his beloved Audrey.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the celebration of Audrey's short life, I suppose, in terms of what expectations nowadays. However, she was taken from us just before she was to turn 60. But I have to say, being with her for 37 years, I'm very, very lucky. A very, very lucky person. And I just want to share with you this afternoon some of the wonderful, wonderful memories that I will take forward with me. But I want to stress that Audrey wouldn't want us to be dwelling on the not so positives. She would want us to celebrate her life. So really, I suppose, to me, and she is a very, very special person. And the times we spent together since we met in 1984 have been absolutely wonderful. And yes, the last 4 years were a roller coaster, and the last 6 months were really, really difficult. But she never once complained. Never once complained. Accepting, actually, to live her life the best she possibly could. The tributes that I have seen to her on rip.ie just echo that. She was an immense person, and she actually touched so many people. So many people. I've had messages from China. I've had messages from Australia. I've had messages from Washington State, Texas State, Chicago, New York. She really touched people. And that's not even to mention France, our love. She really, really actually resonated with people, and people really, really got something from their interaction with her. So I just wanted to share, we looked at albums the last few days and trying to make sense of it all, and maybe just, as I say, share a few snippets. So Audrey's early days, you can see there, why wouldn't a fella like me want to be with her? Absolutely stunning from a young age. And for me, I knew her when we were in primary school. I was very fortunate to know her, you could say, but I would say that, of course. We shared an accordion class together with Mr. Scully, 40 children in an accordion class. I particularly didn't want to be there. I wanted to be out playing football, but I actually went, along with my parents' requests to actually go to accordion classes. And there were 38 boys and 2 girls, of which Audrey was one. And we used to joke, I used to joke and say to her, I fancied you then. And she used to say, go out, that you didn't even see me. No, and again, we were meant to meet. I do believe that. We were meant to meet. We had 37 wonderful years together and wonderful times. And one person who rang me earlier in the week, a really good person who's been associated for a long, long time, Peter Fahy, remarked to me that when 37 years, will you pack a hell of a lot into those 37 years? And that has been the reflections that we've been receiving over the last number of days. So just, two wonderful photographs there. The next slide there really reflects the last 9 months, the last 10 months. And while you might say, that she looks really well in those photographs, she does in some. She was actually last February, So it's more than 9 months. But last February, we actually, the photograph down on the right there where she has the hood on, we actually queued up and put our names down for The Last Duel, Matt Damon's film. We queued outside Liberty Hall to put our names down. And, you know, previously, at other times, Audrey would have suggested something like that. I would have turned around and said, well, you know, I'm not really into queuing, but actually we did it and it's a fond memory now. We had a laugh, we met people, we spoke about life, we engaged with people. And it was a wonderful, wonderful day, even though we didn't get selected in the end. But anyway, we put our names forward, which is a brilliant memory to have. So wonderful memories there. Photograph of us at the bottom where the two of us with Audrey in sunglasses. We were leaving our apartment in the Alps in Savoie, and there was a photograph of us on a nice sunny day. And I said, "Come on, let's get a photograph, a selfie here," and you know, we would have the memories. The photograph us up top right is last May, when the lockdown restrictions started to ease, and we actually went out cycling. And we didn't go too far, but we actually did go out. And I know one of our neighbours, Carol and Audrey, spent days going out for cycles together, and I know Carol cherishes those memories really, really well. And the fun and frolics that they had, even though Audrey was suffering, you know, she still rose to the occasion and actually went out. So just again, just some snippets. Audrey was a parent in a different sort of way. We weren't gifted with children. However, we were gifted with 3 lovely dogs over the years. And I spent 12 years actually nagging her, I suppose, to get a dog because she was really afraid of dogs. And once she got Sheldy, who's the guy in the middle picture, the sable and gold chap, who's on the left. We got Sheldy the year Michelle Smith won her gold medals at the Olympics. And we called him Shell-D. And it was real quirky, and that was Audrey's quirkiness that named Sheldy. And then we got a visit the year later from Mary McKeown, the actual breeder, and she dropped by and she had a litter of tricolours, and she popped in and she said, "Sheldy really needs a friend." And Shadow came along. And Shadow didn't last a long time with Sheldy. In fact, he passed away when we went on holidays to our favourite place, Savoie. And he passed away in Savoie after having a tour of Savoie with our friends. A wonderful memory. And again, you know, while we actually got engagements with, you know, creatures in a different way or life in a different way. We currently have Smokey, and he's lying up along the aisle there at the moment. I'm not sure you can see him on the camera, but he's lying up the aisle and he's actually taking it in. And he has been distraught the last number of weeks. But we actually got him into the Hermitage to say goodbye to Audrey, you know. And while he was distraught at that, I know Audrey cherished the efforts we went to bring him in on those last days. So you know, things happen, and we make things happen, and we put an effort together to make things happen. And I know he will bring solace and comfort to me in the times ahead. And I'm really looking forward to actually minding him for Audrey, because she would want me to do that. Audrey as an educator, and certainly, you know, the messages and the engagement of people with their condolences shows to me the actual breadth and depth of the woman as an educator. She started in UCD back in the late 70s, And she started with her good friend Una. And Una and her soldiered together and had fun together in UCD, where Audrey studied maths, French, and music. And initially, her idea was that she would actually go on and do maths and music. However, the music didn't really, in terms of an academic subject, suit her. So she decided then to do maths and French. And really, when she graduated from her HDip, it actually was one of the reasons she got the job in Ballymun Comprehensive, because she had that unusual combination of teaching subjects, which was fortunate for me later on. Again, she was in the Department of Education for a number of years, and she started in the Department of Education, and her good friends were in of 21 years. It's 21 years since they started in the department, and you know, Warren has been a Trojan friend to Audrey in those intervening periods. And again, in the last 12 months, Sunday afternoons, once a month or so, we would share time together. And again, Audrey's qualities there were around accepting that Muireann was supporting us and actually engaging with her in that regard. But, you know, I could go on in terms of her contribution to education, but there will be a legacy in relation to that, and people will know what I'm speaking about. Audrey was a mathematician. And I say mathematician, I don't mean a maths teacher, I mean a mathematician. Audrey worked with Professor Brendan Goldsmith, former president of Dublin Institute of Technology, which is now Technological University Dublin. And she started a course in Kevin Street while I was studying in Limerick to while away those evenings while I was away. And herself and Una did this M7 maths course and had such fun. And the stories I used to get back were just immense, you know, the fun they had in doing hard sums. And again, they graduated, and Audrey went on to do a Master's by Research, an MPhil, under Brendan Goldsmith as part of his maths research group. And she had really, really fun times. It was on a part-time basis, and she worked directly with Brendan and Sarah Pabst, and they went about solving a maths problem. And the grounding that she got from Brendan was huge. And the fact that I understand what it's about, because I'm in academia now, and Audrey actually would come home often, having spent maybe 2 months on a problem, and she'd go in and discuss the problem with Brendan, and she'd go down through and show him all the ways that she had tried to solve the problem, and she'd come to the end of the work that she's done, and she'd say to him, "This doesn't work," and Brendan would turn to her and say, "I know." And you know, it was his way of grounding her in the actual knowledge that she needed to know. And, you know, they had a wonderful, wonderful relationship in terms of working together. But Brendan was speaking to me during the week and offering his condolences. And Brendan, Sarah and Audrey published in 1998 a paper on rings and modules and the solution to that problem that she had solved. And Brendan had indicated that that's his most cited paper, or their most cited paper, I suppose, to date. So again, in her own unusual way and different way, she's made an impact on maths, theoretical maths. So again, the woman had such talent. And I am the fortunate person. I'm grieving, don't get me wrong. I'm hurting. What am I going to do in the years ahead that I've lost my soulmate? But I will survive, because I'll cherish looking back and coming to grips with what we had and what we shared. So Audrey left the Department of Education And she actually went she took early retirement, and she relaxed for about a year and a half. But in that time of relaxing, she got her head around actually fulfilling that music elements that she was craving for, that creativity she had for music. And I always remember us going into the open day in BIM, the BIM College, which is accredited by Technological University Dublin. And we went and met with people who were interested in actually doing commercial songwriting, which is what Audrey wanted to do. And there were lots of students at the open day giving advice and direction. And I'll always remember when there's two buildings that we were actually brought into, because there's different studios and different setups in the college. And I always remember us coming out of the first building we went into, and we were just walking along, and I said, "Well, what do you think?" And Audrey said, "I'm not so sure. I'm really not so sure." So just at that time, one of the mature students who was at the open day came along, and things changed, because she had that conversation, and the fears that she had were allayed by that actual mature student. And again, that September, she started in BIM. She did an audition, and she was successful in gaining entry. And as Kate said earlier, the songs you hear today are Audrey's productions, in association with some people, and she mentioned Stephen Gormley, and certainly Stephen was another mature student on the course, and they got on famously. And she got on famously with lots of other people. One of our friends, Fiber, actually messaged me and actually said, "I was going to message Audrey today, and I was letting her know that Audrey had passed." So she was so upset, so upset. And again, Fiber actually got so much engagement and help and support from Audrey, even though she was old enough to be her grandmother. So another element of Audrey's life is the gardener. Since we've moved to Dunboyne, we moved to Dunboyne 5 years ago. We downsized from living in the country, and we moved into Dunboyne. And you can see there, that's her creation. That's her creation. That's her area. Small garden, but yes, the right size for what it is she wanted to do. And you can see her sitting in the middle, photograph sitting in the middle with our little son, Smokey, on her knee. Wonderful, wonderful memories. She also was a linguist. I mentioned we actually had an apartment in the Alps. Audrey translated into English the French contracts that we were given by the actual solicitors. And she translated it perfectly. She was able to negotiate with the actual avocat in actual French. She was able to actually look at and point out all the things that we wanted clarification on. Again, attention to detail, knowledge, application, a wonderful, wonderful person. So France was a home away from home. And again, we actually, because of Audrey, we resonated with the people in the apartment block that we lived in. We didn't buy in a ski resort. We actually bought in a remote, small town where we could actually interact with the French people. And we have such fond memories of our neighbours and having great sessions and meals and times to actually work together. And again, Audrey was felt vulnerable, like all of us, but she was brilliant at French, absolutely brilliant at French. In fact, often was the case, it was taken that she was a French person when we would do things and say things. And our friends, Claude and Colette, the picture on the left there is a terrace in one of our friends' apartments, and they would host people, everybody from the apartment block, particularly when we were there, because we'd have fun. We'd have good fun. And Audrey brought her music to bear on the occasions that we all met up. Just moving on, and I'm conscious that, you know, I could stand here today and talk to you about so much about Audrey. And as I say, it's a celebration of her life. She was a golfer. She took up golf because I took up golf, and she reckoned she'd never see me if she didn't play it. But she supported me in my playing, but we actually played together. We won the club foursomes, mixed foursomes. She won the President's Prize. She won the four-ball with her good friend Mary Murphy, you know, and they were a formidable team, Mary and Audrey. But again, Audrey was systematic, a mathematician, if you like, about playing golf. You know, the lowest handicap she got down to was 17, and 17 for a woman is excellent. She was a cyclist, and again, a passion of mine from my young days. But like Audrey did, a stage of the Tour de France, open to the public every year. The Tour de France Society actually allow people to do one stage, closed roads, simulated like the Tour de France, and Audrey did a stage. And the French paper that day reported that the stage we did was referred to as the apocalypse because the weather was dreadful. And that's a photograph there on the right, in the rectangle, of Audrey actually riding along on the stage. Wonderful, wonderful memories from that day, even though it was atrocious weather. We had such fun. And again, people say to me, who's that fella beside Audrey down there and in the bottom photograph? And I have to say, well, actually, do you not recognize Nico Roche? You know, she met the top guys. In fact, we went to the Tour de France in 1987, and we met Stephen Roach the night before he took the yellow jersey in Tour de France. You know, we had some wonderful times, and I'm just giving you a snippet of them today. The photograph in the middle, in hindsight, was back in 2017, and Audrey did a sportive with me up in Cavan, and she struggled that day, and she'd often say to me afterwards, that was the day I believe that I was actually, things were starting to go downhill for me. She just had no power. She had nothing in her legs. And I remember actually pushing her, which was something that never happened. You know, so that photograph, hurtful as it is for me, it actually is a really important part of her. She is, to anyone that she engaged with, a true friend. A true friend, a wonderful friend to people. You know, people reach out to her. And that's just, you know, there's an arrangement of photographs there. Muireann and Garrod are in it, when we were in a restaurant in the south of France. Una and Audrey on a hat day in UCD when they were students there. The one in the middle, I'm not sure who the student is, but it's a photograph on Audrey's phone from one of the live mic sessions that she was at with BIM. Above, up in the corner, is Audrey with our best friend, Christophe, out in France. And down below, two other French friends, Claude and Colette Pissetti. And again, that was the day we did the tour of Savoie with Shadow before he passed. So huge memories. Audrey is a daughter to Kathleen and Don, you know, and again, on her graduation last November, you know, her mom, Kathleen, was so proud. We had a wonderful day celebrating her first class honours degree, you know, her labouring and having real difficulty, but actually got through, you know, again, at the highest level. She's a sister to Dawn, Kate, Gary, Brendan, and Loretta. You know, and I know she's been there for many a time for her brothers and sisters. She's a daughter stroke sister-in-law. You know, she's certainly interacted really well with my family. You know, and again, you know, if you were to meet people in my family, they would say she's a wonderful, wonderful woman. And she's my soulmate, and I will be needing support in the future. Those photographs are this year. Again, the top right is Audrey when we actually used to be looked after down with her sister Kate in Cork. Audrey would be struggling, and we would go down, and Kate would look after us. And, you know, Kate has been there looking after Audrey, you know, and I hope she'll look after me into the future. The photograph on the far side of that is actually us when we were away for a few days just before lockdown. We went away for a few days, and then COVID kicked in. And then the photograph of us with the French Monte de Moret is actually where our new apartment is. And unfortunately, we got the keys on the 28th of September, and Audrey hasn't gotten to see the new apartment, other than me actually doing Zoom calls to show her all the different parts of the apartment. But I promised, and I promised her, I will actually make her memory good in that space. I know Audrey will be remembered fondly. I know everybody who's been touched by her will have those fond memories. I ask you to actually think of the positive experience you have with her and remember her in that way. You know, she would want that. She would want that. And knowing her, and we discussed that, she would want people to actually. So rest in peace, my angel. You know, I'll see you someday, and I love you. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you so much for that, Laura. You know, it's funny, I suppose I got married many, many years ago, and I've been away for such a long time and missed such a big part of Audrey's life that was really enlightening for me, and I'm so delighted she did as much as she did. So thank you, Lloyd. Thank you for letting me know that. We're going to continue now with another one of Audrey's songs, and this one is called Life Hurts. And maybe it's better to let Lloyd at it, because at least you can blame him, not me. Okay.
We got it.
Yeah. Can you hear it? Is it loud enough?
When does the hurt
Sounds we're going to get it. So it just means you have to listen hard.
When does the hurt stop hurting? When does the pain fade away? Why does the love stop loving? Why do I always feel this way? You think I would have learned by now? I'm old enough
Now, we have asked some of Audrey's great friends to say a few words about their life with her. So could I call on Una, please, to come and say a few words? Thanks, Una.
Audrey, you've been my friend for over 40 years. Since we first met in 1978 as undergraduates, studying maths in UCD. From the very beginning, I loved the quirkiness about you. I loved that you were your own person. I loved that you had a great confidence. And you always believed in what you felt was right. And even if that was buying summer sandals for Christmas Day and showing me, these are my Christmas shoes. And during that time, I also came to see how fantastic you were as a mathematician. We were in the same maths class and you were always better than me. But that never mattered. As we continued on, we'd fun days, as you saw, some of you saw from the pictures there on Crazy Hat Day, when we wore our hats in. And then we had our war hats again, side by side, sitting together on graduation day. And we both went into teaching after that. And we'd great fun. We'd go out to nightclubs together, we'd go to parties together, go to concerts together. And we enjoyed every minute of it. And we laughed and we joked through it all. And we went back to college and did the famous M7. And yeah, Lloyd said we'd fun solving hard maths problems. Little does he know, all those Saturdays when he was in Limerick and we were out in Selbridge, mulling over, trying to make sense of those lectures, munching through the sweets as we did it. And again, you did brilliantly, absolutely fantastically in that course. And we were side by side again, graduating. And in fact, we took great delight in being the only two people who graduated that year from that course. And that was fun for us, just those little things. And we stayed friends. And our lives went on in different ways. We were working with our families, we were teaching, and you were continuing in different fields of education. And sometimes a long time would go by and we mightn't see each other. But when we did, we'd catch up and it was as if we'd just met yesterday. We'd fill in all the gaps and we'd chat away and chat away. And I always felt better having been in your company. And yes, I loved how confident you were. And I loved how sure you always were. But I also treasure, Audrey, that sometimes you let me know that you were vulnerable too. And you trusted me to tell me those things. And I loved that in those years, you called me pal. And now, Audrey, I say to you, rest easy, pal. Love you.
Thank you, Una. Audrey's good friend Myrn is going to come and say a few words to us now as well.
Garda. Thank you, Lloyd, and to the Kearns and Scott families for the privilege of being here today to celebrate Audrey's wonderful life and to bid her a very fond farewell. This would be a difficult day in normal times, but it is much more difficult when funerals, as we know them in Ireland, are on hold, and so many people who would wish to be here with you in person cannot be here to support you in your tragic loss. I know a huge number of people are out there watching in to be with you and to honour and remember Audrey. I met Audrey for the first time on the 1st of September 1999. Audrey, Maureen O'Sullivan, Joan Sutton, Ray Frawley, Oliver Duggan and I were commencing our induction programme with An Chigarach, the post-primary inspectorate. From September to Christmas, we had lectures, workshops, mentoring sessions, and team building challenges. Audrey immediately stood out to me as being a leader, guiding us all gently to intelligent, logical, well thought out resolutions to the challenges. And while we worked hard, we laughed a lot. Audrey's dry wit and twinkling eyes kept us all going. In a way, it was unlikely that Audrey and I would become friends at all. Her experience and knowledge of the education was much greater than mine. At that time, as Lloyd said, she was a keen golfer, winning many prizes. I never played golf in my life. She was an exceptional singer and guitar player, as we are hearing here today, and I can't sing a note in tune. She became a very serious cyclist, even having training bikes in the kitchen and drummery. She did Pilates and other such fads, in my opinion. I did none. She loved dogs, and I did not, until I got to know Shadow and Sheldy, and later our beloved Smokey, and learned the love people can have of animals. Never more important to Audrey and Lloyd last week. I might yet get a dog. I am immersed in the Irish language, and my family and most of my social circle are Irish speakers, and my work is conducted almost entirely through Irish. Audrey was a linguist, had great respect for Irish, but was certainly not going to take up speaking Irish for my sake. She used to slag me about my fanaticism and could not understand how I got worked up about issues to do with Irish. But we had a plan, sadly never realised, to translate some of her songs to be hits on Radio na Gaeltachta. But a journey of more than 21 years of friendship began. I admired Audrey for her straight talking, her work ethic, and I really envied her organisational skills. When we got our Kicker wings, Audrey, Maureen and I ended up in the much maligned building, Hawkins House. Audrey and I were in offices on the 11th floor. There is no 12th floor. The top brass of an Kicker were on floor 3, so little chance of passing traffic. I was constantly in and out of Audrey's office, availing of her advice and wisdom. We challenged each other to 22 flights of stairs to morning coffee and back. She succeeded far more than I ever did. One of my last text conversations with Audrey was on the 21st of December, Grian Stad an Yivra, the winter solstice. We recalled our celebration in 2000 and 2001 on floor 11 with whiskey-laced Irish coffee for the Hawkins House Inspectorate to celebrate the event. I don't think SIPO, Standards in Public Office, would approve nowadays. As Kiggery, a weekly penance was to fill out a document called An Tirishan, which was a record of our weekly activities, what we did, where, date, time, etc. It was a huge A2 document complete with carbon paper, now long forgotten, to retain copies. I used to struggle every few weeks trying to remember where I'd been, with whom, when, etc., while Audrey had a meticulously accurate diary kept and could complete her Irishan stress-free and promptly. All aspects of Audrey's work were planned, completed and recorded to that high standard. Thinking back, Audrey was a trailblazer. When the children of asylum seekers and refugees first arrived to our schools, she immediately undertook work with Trinity to develop a support structure for these children. Many years ago, she visited Mosney, where families were being housed. I recall her dismay with the living conditions of the families and the challenges of children being bused to schools, not being allowed visitors, nor cook their own food. She believed then Mosney should be closed down, and this is yet to happen. For the past number of years, but ever more so in the past year, well-being has been top of the educational agenda. Again, Audrey was aware of this ahead of her time, always emphasising from her own experience in teaching school management how critical it was to have support for students' mental well-being in our schools. I moved sideways out of the school's Kigerach in 2002, and we no longer worked together, and our relationship became one of social friendship. We did not climb peaks, nor ski, nor cruise together, but we met up casually and regularly here at home. Lloyd and Garrod, my husband, have a lot in common. Their similar background in third-level education and their passion for furniture making and design. The four of us met up before Audrey's illness for wonderful lunches, dinners and long conversations. We were honoured to be at the post-grad celebration of Audrey's music degree and the launch of some of her songs. In the spring of 2019, I was asked by a nephew of mine to make his wedding cake. The making of the cake was not a problem, but I told Audrey that I had no idea how to go about icing a 3-tier square chocolate biscuit cake. She arrived the following Saturday and on subsequent Saturdays, armed with tracing paper, pencils, rulers, scissors, and with her mathematical brain, worked out the measurements, shapes, thickness required. She saved the day. Garrod and I will always remember being in the south of France in September 2019, where, by coincidence, Audrey and Lloyd were. We spent a great few days together, drove around, had a fantastic dinner in Antibes, chocolate stain on white blouse as a souvenir, lunch in Biot, a village renowned for glass making, where Audrey bought a pure Audrey, brightly coloured, dangly pair of glass earrings. They were perfect for her eclectic style and love of bright colours. We also remember sipping wine together on the terrace of that luxurious hotel you were staying in, close to the apartment they had purchased. Happy days. Audrey passed away on the 8th of January, Nollaig na Man, a fitting day for a great woman. On the 10th of January, a Christmas card, made and written by Audrey, was delivered by our postman. It had been posted on December the 14th, but Audrey must have convinced An Post to hold it back so that we got it when she had left us. My family, Garrod, Nisha, Ultan and Mida, will all grieve the loss of Audrey. Nisha, my eldest son, was honoured when Audrey asked him to design the cover of her first CD. Ultan and Mida will always remember her for independent thinking and courage, from the red ankle boots she wore on her last visit to our house to her courage to change direction and pursue her dream in BIM. Mida always loved it when her hair was blue. To end, Audrey is wrapped in a Foxford rug, and the poem I will now read, Unboss by Martin O'Dirine, asks death to be kind, to leave fear behind, to be like a protective father bringing a child home from a party, because we are all children in death, not wishing to go without a cocoon, or what we now refer to as a blankie, or a Foxford rug. That's the card, the beautiful card. Unboss le Martin O'Dirine. Nuair a sheochfar an bháis ar ball, tar go lácht an ire, ná bíoch an scá I dgáil, ach fág sa gró I dhia é. Tar mar ahar I garam a fáiste, a bhaile ó chóisiir go díonmhar, or is páistí sin ile a bháis, is ní háil linn imimecht gan díonmhrat. Slán, Audrey, slán go fáil.
Thank you very much, Myrn. Now I'm going to have to ask Lloyd to come up again and have a look at this, because we're going to have another song by Audrey. We're going to have a song called Scratch the Surface by Audrey. And once we finish that song, Jeanette, Lloyd's sister, is going to talk to you about her time with Audrey.
I thought it was going quite alright.
Thank you, Aud. Okay, Jeanette.
Hello everyone, Jeanette, Audrey's sister-in-law, Lloyd's sister. Just wanted to say hello to my mum and dad who couldn't make it today, who's watching at home. Well, what a celebration, what a life lived. She packed so much in. And after being with Lloyd for the last number of days, I'd just like to say how incredibly touched he was to receive so many people reaching out and receive such comfort and joy from everyone who reached out to touch him. Impeccable is the word that comes to mind when I think of Audrey, because everything she did was impeccable to standards beyond. She was just everything, 200%. When Lloyd went away, he used to bring back diaries, as you heard from wherein she loved a journal. She was a perfectionist with the journal. And he'd often bring her back diaries from when he'd be away. And when he was preparing for today, the other night, he went up to the office and he found a diary. And I'm sure there's plenty of gems to be found down along the way, down the future. So this is a little notebook he found. And we all know how important, and perhaps our first love, Smokey is. Smokey was a huge part of Lloyd and Audrey's life, and she adored him. So Lloyd found this little notebook, and I'm taking glasses off. Audrey, singer-songwriter. Lyrics and lyrics idea. So it's her lyrics book. Smokey needs a lot of editing, July 19. So I'll read it through and then I'll read it again and let you the little edits that she'd done. So, I can't think of you without smiling. You light up my days, always making sure I'm all right. Your love never fades. Seeing you from afar, it was an instant attraction. Face to face, you caused a chemical reaction. You moved in, my life changed. We were always together. Fun and games, quiet times, birds of a feather. In the early days, you were very shy. In the early days, you were shy. You let me take the lead. Your confidence grew. You stepped up. We moved on side by side. So that was the first draft. So I will read the second draft now, the edited one, as it was a work in progress. So, I think of you and smile. You light up my days, always making sure I'm all right. Your devotion never fades. Seeing you from afar, it was an instant attraction. Face to face, you caused a chemical reaction. You moved in, my life changed. We were always together. Fun and games, quiet times, birds of a feather. In the early days, you were shy. You let me take the lead. Your confidence grew. You stepped up. We moved on side by side. And then the last verse she added. Your eyes replace words. The message is true. You belong with me and I with you. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeanette, for bringing Smokey into this, because he was so much a focus of her life. So anyway, now it's my turn to talk about my darling sister. And I decided to focus on the recent past, because we had a great time in the recent past. Our time together in recent years has been magical. We found a mutual love and interest of positivity, mindfulness, and meditation. From the moment I introduced her to The Secret, a new world opened for us. We spent many happy hours reading Oprah Winfrey's book, This I Know For Sure, and listening to meditations, sitting in my sunroom on Audrey's favourite chair. We listened to Deepak Chopra day in, day out. The lessons we learned were life-changing. And one of my fondest memories was a day we spent reading Oprah to one another, Audrey sitting in that wonderful chair. And we would finish one chapter and say, okay, that's enough. Let's not go any further. Let's think about this. And we'd think about it, and we'd discuss it, and we'd start to laugh and have fun about it. And next thing we knew, we were back reading more of it. And by the time we finished what had started out to be a quick dip into that book, evening had come. We had laughed, pondered, embraced the lessons, and enjoyed a truly wonderful day together. But then Audrey never did things by half, and her dedication to positivity permeated her whole world. From the time she was sick, every time she was well enough to do something, she grasped that day with both hands, and she lived, lived, lived. Yes, you've all heard she completed her degree in musical composition against all odds, and what a proud day that was at her graduation. She continued to travel with Lloyd. She continued to compose music. She joined a choir. She even tried to steal my thunder by making Christmas cards. I will treasure forever my card from her this year. But dear sis, can I say, stick to the music, leave the cards to me. There's so much else I could say about my beautiful, talented, intelligent and resourceful sister. But we can't stay here for hours. It's enough to say that I was at times envious of her, to my shame, at times in awe of her, but I was always proud of her and I loved her dearly. My darling Aud, you'll always be with me. I will always hear your music, your advice and your laughter. Rest in peace, sis. I'm so happy that your suffering is over. So now we're going to go on with another song. And this one is by her great friend, Stephen Gormley. It's called Let It Out, Let It In.
Someone's always asking you why. Why does the salt burn when you cry? A river's running down from your face, but you'd like to tell them all just how it tastes. And others wanna poke at your sores. They find an open wound and they're digging some more. They stick their fingers inside your mouth. You wiggle them around, find something that they want, pull it out. Carry on carrying the weight of the world. Pick it up and stroke it real slow. Pretend it's your turn, girl, abuse at me, your talk. Dirty behind my back, I'm a living thing, man, who died. But now I've come back, let it out, let it in. Let it all begin, let it out, let it in. Let it all begin, let it out, let it in. Let it all begin, let it out, let it in. Brother by my side, tell me your woes. You're a little piggy now, you're counting your toes. Who's gone to market with your soul? You're shitting out your mouth and you're singing out your hole. And everywhere you go seems the same. The lion in your head and he cannot be tamed. You're trying hard, good folks, to please. You need to pull the trigger, man, you need to release. Carry on carrying the weight of the world. Pick it up and stroke it real slow. Pretend it's your turn, hurl abuse at me, your talk. And dirty behind my back, I'm a living thing, man, I died. But now I've come back, let it out, let it in. Let it all begin, let it out, let it in. Let it all begin, let it out, let it in. Let it all begin, let it out, let it in. Let it out, let it in. Let it all begin, let it out, let it in. Let it all begin.
We will have to thank Stephen Gormley for that one. Okay, now my brother Don, who is my younger brother and Aud's older brother, he's going to come and say a few words.
Hey everybody. Audrey's looking fantastic there. I do just have a few words to say. And like everybody else, I want to celebrate Audrey's life and not dwell on her passing. I'm Audrey's older brother as well, and the two of us were very close in terms of birth years. And there was only 16 months between us. From an early age, Audrey had a love of music. I know it resurrected there towards the end, but it was a passion she had from very early on. Growing up, we always had a piano in our house. I reminded her just a few weeks ago of how, at the ages of about 7 or 8 years of age, we jointly composed a song, what we thought was a great song. And I was thrilled when she remembered it as well. And don't worry, I'm not going to sing it now. Audrey returned to music in the last few years in a serious way, as you know. She got her music degree and did a few gigs, which she enjoyed immensely. She even managed to put out a CD with some of her own original material. She doesn't need me to, but I admire very much what she achieved following her dream. Well done, Audrey. Lloyd, you will forever be a member of our family. I want to thank you for the happiness that you brought to and shared with Audrey. Whenever you needed your friends in our midst. Audrey loved her dog Smokey immensely. No surprise, everybody else has also commented. I know the fantastic bond that can exist between dogs and their owners. There was none stronger than that shared with Smokey. I'd like to leave you with a short quote from a multi-talented man, the actor, photographer and writer Leonard Nimoy. He said, "A life is like a garden. Perfect moments can be had, but not preserved, except in memory. We will never forget our dear sister Audrey." Thank you.
Thanks, Don. And now our younger sister, Loretta, is going to say a few words about Aud.
Thanks, Kate, or Caggle Schnook, or whatever the other names we used to have. So, given that Dad had been a professional musician, music was always around us, so it's not surprising at all that music was such an important part of Audrey's life. Whether to give voice to her frustrations or to celebrate great joys, when Audrey was around, music was never far behind. And while there are very many occasions I could mention, from recording some of her songs for voice, guitar, keyboard and trumpet, and spending a little time well out of my depth working with her to get her songwriting mojo going again, or just being immersed in some of her legendary sing-songs. I think we've all been to those. There are wonderful memories, but the one that I want to share is a bit more personal, I suppose, and it's from just before Christmas 2019. Seems like about 10 years ago, but it's actually just only one. Audrey had, at that stage, just been given the all clear. And we celebrated in style. And what that meant was an evening of carol singing in Avoca with the local Church of Ireland church choir honorary members. It was Audrey, my daughter Evie and I, decked out in our Christmas jumpers and our Santa hats, and much tinsel involved. And it was a fabulously joyous evening for us, filled with song, with relief, filled with fun. That's where you winged it, both with words and with harmonies, but most of all, filled with love. We had hoped this would become an annual event for us. And while that might not be on the cards anymore, I'm quite sure wherever Audrey is, music isn't far behind. Love you, Audrey.
Thanks for that, Rhett. Well, we've come really very close to the very end of this ceremony. We're going to finish off with one last song by Aud called Just As I Am, a very fitting memory to go out with. Once this song is over, I say anybody who wants to say a quick last goodbye to Audrey, come up and say goodbye, and then we will all leave the room. Lloyd and Jeanette will stay in here while the casket is closed. And then we'll all head to Dargestown Cemetery for the last leg.
with other eyes? Would I recognize myself? Would I fill me with surprise? How would I react to me, knowing none of what I am? Would I want to be my friend? Would I think it worth the time? Just as I am. Can you ever really tell how you're seen by someone else, accepted just for who you are, tolerated, kept afar? Why are truth and honesty the hardest things for me to find? When their masks are kept in place, even staying for all time. Just as I am. Then again, I decide maybe it's as well they lie. Nod their heads, chat and smile, and walk away to their own lives. How would I react to them if they knew where I began? Would I want to be their friend, lying there just as I am? Just as I sometimes wish that I could see myself with other eyes.
So thank you again, Audrey, and thank you, everybody. Okay. We'll meet up again at Dardastown.